national coalition force which monitors the Korean armistice and helps maintain regional stability in Northeast Asia. It was established in May of 1952 and originally consisted of 5 officers and 10 enlisted men. We reached our peak strength at the end of the Korean War with approximately 1,900 personnel assigned. We currently have about 700 personnel, 95% of which are Republic of Korea or ROC soldiers. To place your trip in better context, I'll briefly outline the political history of the Korean Peninsula. Prior to World War II, Japan had colonized the entire peninsula, and in the final days of World War II, the Soviet Union accepted the surrender of Japanese forces north of the 38th parallel, while the United States accepted their surrender south of it. The 38th parallel was never intended to be a political boundary nor a division of country. It was merely assigned to designate areas of responsibility between the Soviet Union and the United States. So in the spring of 1948, elections were held in the South, and this man, Dr. Sung Mun-rae, was elected the first president of the Republic of Korea. September of that same year, the Soviet Union appointed Kim Il-sung to be the first premier of communist North Korea. He reigned for approximately 46 years until his death, and was preceded in power by his eldest son, Kim Jong-il. This was the first father-to-son succession of power to ever take place in a communist country. Despite attempts at negotiation and reunification, on 25 June 1950, North Korea launched a massive surprise attack on the South. This ensuing war lasted over 3 years and cost over 2 million people their lives. Within 1 month, North Korean forces had captured most of the South. Coalition forces finally stopped them around the city of Busan. Over the next 4 months, the UNC conducted the Incheon landing and pushed the North Korean forces back to the Yalu River, the border between North Korea and China. At this point, China entered the war and assisted the North Koreans in their war effort. The war finally began to stabilize again around the 38th parallel, and on 27 July 1953, military commanders from the United Nations Command, the Korean People's Army, and the Chinese People's Volunteers signed a ceasefire armistice agreement. This ceasefire is still in effect today, and the border between North and South Korea has remained the same ever since. It is no longer the 38th parallel. This white dotted line represents the military demarcation line, or MDL. Under the provisions of the armistice, all military commanders were ordered to pull their troops back 2,000 meters from the last point of hostile contact, thus creating a 4-kilometer wide, 241-kilometer long demilitarized zone, or DMZ. Note the location of Seoul in its relation to the MDL. We are currently located here at Camp Boniface, just 400 meters from the southern boundary of the DMZ, and 2.4 kilometers from MDL, which is in the Joint Security Area. This is the city of Kaesong. It's the site of the original peace talks prior to them being moved to the Panmunjom. Although the demilitarized zone is one of the most fortified locations in the world, the MDL itself consists of no fortifications. It is simply a series of 1,292 yellow and black panel markers spaced at 1 to 200 meter intervals. On the southern side, they're labeled in Korean or Hangul at the top and English at the bottom. On the northern side, they're labeled in Korean at the top and Chinese Mandarin at the bottom. Inside the Joint Security Area, the MDL is more clearly defined by a series of white stakes. These stakes stand 1 meter tall and are spaced at 10 meter intervals. It continues on to Conference Road and is represented by a 17 by 5 inch slab of concrete which runs between the buildings. On our trip north today, this is the area we'll be visiting. Notice how the MDL winds its way through the DMZ and forms a finger inside the Joint Security Area. Upon arrival there today, you'll be surrounded on 3 sides by communist North Korea. We'll begin our trip here at Camp Boniface and exit on the MSR, our main supply route. This is also known as Old Highway 1. For over 50 years, this is the only stretch of highway to connect North and South Korea until an agreement was reached to open the East and West trade corridors. While moving north, we will point out Guard Post 240, Observation Point Olet, Taesongdong, or Freedom Village, Hejeongdong, or Propaganda Village, the Swiss and Swedish NNSC camp, and the former Czech and Polish NNSC camp. I'll now highlight some of these areas in greater detail. The first is Taesongdong, or Freedom Village. The UNC Security Battalion is responsible for implementing all civil and security affairs for this unique village. We carry out our responsibilities through the use of a security company which guards the village 24 hours a day. During the day, they guard the villagers while they farm in the fields, and at night, they guard the village itself while the villagers sleep. All villagers have modern homes and rather large allocations of farmland. However, they do live under some rather severe restrictions. They must be inside their homes by dark, and inside the village by dark, and inside their homes by midnight with the doors and windows locked. 1,800 meters across the MDL from Taesongdong is the village of Hejeongdong, or Propaganda Village. We gave it this nickname due to a large speaker system which until 2004 broadcast propaganda 6 to 12 hours a day. This appeared here at Camp Boniface, but mostly at night. The propaganda idolized Kim Jong-il as a great leader and invited the residents of Taesongdong as well as the rest of the Republic to defect to the so-called Village of Paradise. However, if you were to defect here, you'd find yourself rather lonely because the village is mostly uninhabited. We do see people there from time to time, Work at the Kaesong Industrial Complex, maintain the upkeep of these buildings, and raise and lower this extremely large North Korean flag. This is one of the largest flags in the world and has an approximate length of 31 meters. This is not the only flagpole to have ever stood in Gyeongdong. In 1981, the Republic of Korea donated a new flagpole to the village of Taesongdong, which stood taller than the original flagpole in Gyeongdong. The North Koreans very quickly reacted by building an even larger flagpole. Today, the flagpole in Taesongdong stands over 100 meters in height, while the flagpole in Gyeongdong stands over 160 meters in height. Upon arriving in the joint security area, I'll point out the Swiss and Swedish Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission camp. The Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission was originally formed of 4 delegations: Czechoslovakia, Switzerland, Sweden, and Poland. They were charged with investigating all armistice violations that occurred outside of the demilitarized zone. They currently work with just 3 delegations: Switzerland, Sweden, and Poland. Switzerland and Sweden stay year-round, and Poland comes for biannual meetings. Visible from Checkpoint 3 is the former Czech and Polish NNSC camp, as seen on your right. To the left is the North Korean People's Peace Museum, which was built within 48 hours solely for the signing of the Armistice Agreement. Also visible from Checkpoint 3 is the Bridge of No Return. This bridge attained its name in the final days of the Korean War when Operation Big Switch and Little Switch occurred. The Bridge of No Return lies in the southwestern corner of the joint security area. All blue buildings belong to the UNC, the United Nations Command, and all red buildings belong to the KPA, or Korean People's Army. Prior to 1976, the joint security area was a neutral territory, and both guard forces crossed the border freely within it. North Korea took full advantage of this by building 4 guard posts within the southern sector, while the UNC built none in the north. Note the location of Checkpoint 4 and how it's surrounded on 3 sides by North Korean guard posts. Soldiers at Checkpoint 3 had limited visibility at Checkpoint 4 due to a large yellow poplar tree that grew in this area. So on 18 August 1976, the UNC dispatched a 5-man civilian work detail, accompanied by a 10-man guard force, to conduct a routine tree trimming operation. Upon arrival, they were met by 28 North Korean soldiers. Work did begin as scheduled. However, after 15 minutes, the North Koreans attacked. This fight lasted only 4 minutes, but during that time, JSA Company Commander Captain Arthur Boniface and 1st Platoon Leader 1st Lieutenant Mark Barrett were brutally killed. To give you a better idea of how outnumbered they were that day, I'll put out several soldiers in this photograph. First is hard to make out, but he's here fighting off 7 North Korean soldiers. Here's the helmet of Captain Boniface. Here you can clearly see a North Korean soldier wielding an axe at a JSA soldier. Due to this unprovoked act of aggression, a special series of meetings was held, and it was determined that the actual border would separate the guard forces. Under these new provisions, there were no further acts of aggression until 23 November 1984, when a Soviet citizen on a North Korean-sponsored tour dashed across the border in an attempt to defect to the free world. North Korean guards armed with rifles and pistols quickly followed him in an attempt to kill or capture him. Approximately 30 North Koreans located in the northern portion of the sunken garden. The JSA Quick Reaction Force was immediately alerted, and they were able to quickly halt and outflank the North Korean main body within the sunken garden. This fight lasted 20 minutes, but during that time, the North Koreans had 3 men killed and 5 men wounded, while the UNC had 1 man, Corporal Jung, a rock soldier, killed and 1 man wounded. The Soviet defector was protected throughout the firefight and evacuated back here to Camp Boniface. While up north today, you will see North Korean soldiers. We ask you not attempt to communicate with them in any way, verbally or non-verbally, so please no pointing or waving. The Security Battalion also provides assistance and support for humanitarian operations, such as the repatriation of remains, as well as the delivery of humanitarian aid to the north. We also provide security and assistance for visiting dignitaries, such as the former President of the United States, George W. Bush, President of the Republic of Korea, former Prime Minister of Australia, and former American Secretaries of State. Like these personnel, you too will be escorted by soldiers of this battalion. The soldier to your left is a Republic of Korea or ROC soldier. They served 2 years here. The soldier to your right is a U.S. Army soldier, and we served 1 year here. Both soldiers must meet above average aptitude standards, as well as have a clean military and civilian record. It is due to this fact that we are the most forwardly deployed unit on the Korean Peninsula, and that we stand face to face with our enemies on a daily basis, that the United Nations Command, the U.S. Army, and the Republic of Korea have given us our motto, which we so proudly claim. Ladies and gentlemen, we are truly in front of them all. Okay, at this time, if anyone needs to use the restroom, straight back through this door.